When you're a person whose identity is completely tied in with work, you have built nothing to fall back on. Is your work identity balanced with all of your other identities? What's your priority? Do you spend the other time in an intentional manner? What have you balanced? Are you living in the moment? Are you present with your family? Are you present with your friends? What's really important to you? There's nothing wrong with being ambitious, and there's nothing wrong with being promoted. It's amazing. And if you become a CEO, that's a good thing, as long as it's balanced with other things in your life that are important.
In the last episode, Craig Friedman and I explored what happens when AI can do more of the work that once helped us grow. To many of us, our jobs don't just give us something to do, they give us a sense of who we are. And that got me thinking, what happens when the world of work is changing so quickly that the identities we've built around it can no longer keep up? What happens when our work identity is the only one we have? So that's where today's conversation takes us, with my guest, Erris Klapper. We're talking about identity, about the parts of ourselves that exist beyond our job titles, and making sure that as work changes around us, we don't lose ourselves along with it. Welcome to MindBlend. I'm your host, Karen Chong. In each episode, I talk with people who have experienced something real, and we break down what made a difference, so you can see yourself and the world around you more clearly, spot what you might have been missing, and move through life with a clearer way forward. If you like what you're hearing, share with those around you and subscribe to MindBlend. You will help a lot in spreading the insights for anyone who can use them. Let's blend. So today's guest has spent years helping people navigate imposter syndrome, career transitions, and the complicated relationship we have with work. She also hosts a podcast, Beyond Your Job, which feels very fitting to what we're going to talk about today. So please join me in welcoming Erris Klapper. Hi, Erris. Welcome to MindBlend.
Hi, Karen. So nice to be here with you today. Thank you for inviting me.
The pleasure's on mine. So first off, I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself.
So way back in the day, I majored in psychology in college, but then had a quick shift and decided to go to law school instead of pursuing graduate studies in psychology. And I was a lawyer for many years in New York and got burnt out very quickly and transitioned to basically being a full-time freelance writer. And I also coached and mentored many people at that time. So coaching and mentoring have been part of my career from the start. Eventually, I went back to school for a master's in industrial and organizational psychology. I became certified as a professional coach. And today I have my own practice, Erris Klapper Coaching and Consulting, where I help executives with communication, executive presence, and a heavy portion of my practice is imposter syndrome navigation and management. And as you mentioned, I just launched a podcast, Beyond Your Job, and it is the show where we talk about work, life, balance, and everything in between, which is right in your wheelhouse. So I'm super excited to be here with you today.
It was actually a trick question because I wanted to see what you said first. Because my next question was going to be, I notice a lot of people, they start introducing themselves and they start with their job titles. Maybe some cultures more than others, but I do see that a lot. So I wanted to see if you have also noticed that yourself, if you do it yourself, and do you know why, or can you guess why people do that?
So in a professional setting, which this is, you're looking for background about me professionally, because we're going to be talking about our mutual interests on this podcast, not so much who I am as a mom, as a dog mom, as a wife. So in this setting, it seems appropriate to start with that. In a social setting, I also notice that people do it, and that's where I would want to challenge people. Who you are, what you say first, as you immediately identified, is such an important aspect of how we see ourselves. And on one of my podcasts, I actually spoke to a psychologist who said to me that she has shifted that question at cocktail parties. Instead of "Oh, nice to meet you. What do you do?" She says, "Nice to meet you. What are you into lately? What are you working on outside? What's interesting to you?" Even the way we phrase that, "What are you working on outside of work?" It's very telling.
Yeah. And it also depends on how, like the setting, like you said. Because when I was thinking of how I want to ask this question, I was thinking, what about pretend you're at your cousin's barbecue yesterday or something?
If you ask that question, when you're in a social setting, how do you introduce yourself when people ask you about yourself? I love to talk about my children. They're adults, but I think I always have. It's a huge part of my identity, probably the first and most important part of my identity. And I think that I relate to other parents, and that's a conversation that I want to have. I am no longer a practicing attorney, so I'm okay with never mentioning that in a conversation. It many times never comes up.
Hmm. So for people who are still in their current jobs, what do you think their title give them? For people who just start out with, "Oh, I am the CEO of this company," what do you think that mentioning their title gives to them from a psychology point of view?
I think it's an instant status.
Mm,
Dependent upon the job, it's an instant indication of competence. It can be an economic indicator. It's a safe opener.
mm,
You're establishing yourself in the room as somebody with all of those things. And I think that people think that it sets them apart or sets them up for a certain type of conversation and a certain way of being viewed. It's social currency.
Tell me more about the social currency.
Social currency, it's a way of saying, giving adjectives or nouns or whatever it is about yourself where you don't really have to dig deep. You don't have to really talk about yourself. You use these certain terms, and those terms are almost universally or objectively understood to mean something better.
Mm,
To meet somebody at a party and say, "Hey, I'm Erris, I'm unemployed. I've been looking for a job for the last 6 months, so I'm not really doing anything right now." Your tone goes down. The focus shifts. The social currency is immediately depleted.
yeah.
Both the person saying it and the person listening, unfortunately, I think social constructs are such that that conversation becomes uninteresting and, dare I say, depressing immediately.
Mm,
Person that says, "Oh yeah, I'm a VP of sales. I handle team of 10 people, 50 people, whatever it is. I travel a ton. Recently got a promotion. I'm really excited about that." You're now saying all of these objective things that are less about you, not saying that the person didn't own a promotion, but less about you as an individual. And yet you think that you've established yourself. You've stepped up to that podium where you're either on equal footing with whoever you're speaking with or above. Just becomes currency.
mm. That's a very good way to explain it because the CEO example is probably skewed a little because if you're a CEO, people think you're high up, you're confident, you may be rich, well off. If you are like you're just starting out in your career or you're unemployed or sometimes even retired, I feel like people are not really open about telling people they're retired as well, especially if they're forced into early retirement because of what's happening right now. There's a lot of layoffs.
Mhm.
When we do that, like we are so attached to whatever our status is. What is that doing to ourselves?
I think we're selling ourselves short. I think that what happens in that room is if you are speaking to someone and you say, "I'm a CEO," or because I'm a lawyer, I'll pick on attorneys. I'm a first year associate in a law firm. What you've established is that you made it through law school, you've passed the bar, and you're at your first level job. Or contrast that with, "I'm a founding partner of a firm," or "I'm the managing partner," or "I'm a partner, I've been there 10 years. It establishes authority. So now the next thing you're going to say is weighed more heavily than what the newbie says.
Mm,
And it should.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings me to the point about retirees. We often discount people at the end of their careers or people who have retired from their careers. And most often, these are the people that have the most to offer.
Yeah.
Especially if they've kept up with all the changes and all the new things happening and they've seen something different.
Mm-hmm. There has been many guests, like who are retired already, but
Mhm.
they have all these wisdoms that they shared on every episode.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
so with you on that. So what you answered kind of touched a little bit upon imposter syndrome. At least my understanding of imposter syndrome, I think it's sort of like you're not quite there, but you want to be there, or you want to present yourself as being there. Can you give me your the professional definition of imposter syndrome?
So the professional definition is, I'll tell you what it's not before I give you the professional definition,
Okay.
because you already touched on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just beginner's jitters. You're not there, but you want to be there. That doesn't make you an imposter. That makes you a beginner.
Okay.
So I'm challenging that right off the bat.
Okay.
Imposter syndrome is when you're there. You're competent, you are high achieving, you're doing well by all external measures. You're getting the accolades, you're getting the promotions, but you truly have a bias. It's a cognitive bias against yourself where you think you're not good enough. It's not, oh, I'm just being humble when I say that to you, Karen. It's truly something that the person believes, and that self-bias is so severe that it prevents the person from living life to the fullest in a professional setting, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And if you go by that definition, probably all of us have it. Well, I guess maybe not all of us, but
Not all
from
of
what I
us.
have learned, your brain has some protective mechanism.
Yes.
So when you feel like you're not good enough, is your brain trying to protect you from being hurt? Everyone can be prone to imposter syndrome then because of our brain's protective mechanism.
Everybody can be prone to imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
That is a true statement. There are certain people who are more prone to imposter syndrome. My research proposal actually centered around this. What are the personality types that are most likely? And we found that perfectionism, neuroticism, those are antecedent personality traits that do make a person predisposed towards imposter syndrome. There are certain professions in which we see imposter syndrome really surface at some astronomical rates in the healthcare fields, for example. And and I
Healthcare.
work a lot around, I work a lot with healthcare executives. The reason for that is that those are very high stakes fields. These are people that are highly accomplished, naturally intelligent, have to be hard workers. You can't get through that type of field without being um, ambitious and inclined to that sort of job. And even within healthcare fields, for example, across residencies or subspecialties, we see imposter syndrome for neurosurgeons at the highest possible levels. Close to 94% of them experience it.
Wow.
Other surgical subspecialties, we see moderate to severe levels of imposter syndrome around 75%. That's still very, very high. Korn Ferry did a study a couple of years ago and found that up to 71% of CEOs in America experience serious imposter syndrome feelings, and up to 65% of managers experience it. So we're talking about high-performing individuals in high-stakes environments. So when you're already looking at that population, it's easy to see how these are people who might be perfectionists, hard on themselves, ambitious, want more. But when you're suffering from imposter syndrome and it goes unmitigated, you're actually self-sabotaging yourself. We see people that are not putting themselves up for promotions, maybe not stepping up. Maybe when a supervisor high level is asking for a volunteer to take something on, they're not volunteering. I've seen surgeons who maybe are at the beginning of their training and they're not reaching out for instruments in the OR and not really being proactive because they don't want to put themselves in a position where they might be seen as less than, because inside they feel as less than. That's self-sabotage, because now you're learning less because you're doing less. And the sad truth is that these are the most accomplished people. who are doing great. It's just what they do to themselves inside. And we see rates of burnout, astronomical rates of burnout. We see physical and mental health ramifications, sleep issues, emotional issues. It's hard to live alongside that. And it's a phenomenon that is prevalent.
It's ironic to think when we think about how established these people are, neurosurgeon, like the higher the stake, the more prone they are to imposter syndrome. It doesn't affect just their work performance. If you can't sleep and like if you're stressed all the time and if you're nervous about, I think the more you suffer from imposter syndrome, the more you think I'm not good enough, the more prone you are also to mess up. And then it's just a
Well,
vicious
there's a
cycle.
cycle.
Yeah.
It is a vicious
Mhm.
cycle. We see people with imposter syndrome. This is typical, just a generalization. Typically, people divide into two categories. They are the procrastinators or the overachievers. So the people who are procrastinators have a huge presentation and they procrastinate until the very, very last minute. They um, they just wait until there's not one more moment and then they might stay up all night. I've seen this. But the people who are over preparers start way in advance, way before they need to. They just, they get going, they do more research than they have to, they practice more than they have to. And at the end, whether you over prepare or procrastinate, we see in these two groups that both accomplish the exact same thing because we're talking about accomplished people who are, again, by all external measures, superstars. The thing is, what they're doing to themselves on the inside as all of this happens. So inevitably, they accomplish their goal. And when they accomplish their goal, Karen, that presentation was outstanding. And I'm saying that whether you over-prepared or you are a procrastinator. Great. You walk out of there, and for a few minutes, you feel like you're on top of the world. There's a sense of relief. Your body relaxes. You don't have another presentation tomorrow. You can just breathe. But that sense of relief is short-lived because inevitably that wasn't the last trigger that these people are going to experience.
Mm.
And the very next time that there's another presentation, exam, meeting that's important, whatever it is, those symptoms resurface and the cycle continues because they fail to internalize their accomplishments. When you fail to internalize, I did well. I did well because I'm smart, because I worked hard, because I put the time into this. I made sure that everybody in the room understood. I spoke slowly, whatever it is. If you don't internalize those things and check them off as a win in your bucket of accomplishments, you miss it. They all get spilled out. And the very next time that something happens, you're right there again. That's the cycle.
I have only very recently, within these few years or 5, appreciated the power of wins because I'm also like a very high achiever, perfectionist. So if something went well, it's expected. If something went wrong, I messed up. So I didn't appreciate and I didn't even understand like these small wins as minor as they seem. Slowly, it adds a whole lot to your self-confidence. And for people who are like, they never think they do good. If they mess up, it's the end of the world. If they did good, they didn't acknowledge it. How does that affect their personal life?
It's a terrible drain and a strain because that fear is real and it's constantly there. Because even if you don't have another presentation or whatever it is that scares you and brings on these feelings, the feelings are just there under the surface and they're intense. For people who have them intensely enough, they are in this constant state of tension and anxiety. That's a really difficult place to live. And in coaching, we work on mitigating that and changing the narrative around the triggers, the self-talk, the negative loop that plays in your head and keeps you stuck. So at the end of the day, if you're not logging in those wins and internalizing them, you're letting your thoughts manage you instead of you managing your thoughts. That's a hard way to live your life.
So when you have a new client, do they usually come to you because they recognize there's a problem?
Two ways. One is when I work with organizations, managers may recognize that there's an issue and they will bring me in to assess that issue and work with an individual. Individuals also self-select and come to me directly. I think it's very important to add that I don't start any sort of consultation with the automatic assumption that somebody has imposter syndrome, whether they self-select or whether a supervisor sends them to me, because we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And do a full consultation with a very pointed set of questions to determine, because it's not a diagnosis, it's not on the DSM-5, it is self-reported. That's why we call it a phenomenon or a syndrome. But the person has to answer a certain set of questions. We also do a questionnaire that's readily out there. It's called the Clance Imposter Phenomenon Scale, and there are many others that we use to assess. And if we decide together that that is an issue for the person, we gauge where they are on that scale. Few symptoms, moderate symptoms, severe. We talk about how it affects their lives, and we decide together whether it's advisable to embark on this. I do a module-based mitigation program where we address the root causes of it because they're different for everyone, and I've seen many different types. We address the triggers, again, very different for each individual, and on reframing the narrative. And eventually doing it again and again and having some tools to lower the temperature really help. I've seen some incredible results. People don't have to live with such incredible discomfort. Can be different.
So generally speaking, what are some of the red flags?
For me, a big one is when people say, even when other people tell me that I did well, I don't believe them. I think they're just being nice to me. That's attributing successes to other factors, not actually what you accomplished. When people tell me that they're incredibly anxious in certain situations because they look around and they think that they're the dumbest person in the room, I've heard that from highly intelligent people. It's painful to even hear that. When people don't clock their wins, when people believe that anything less than 100% perfect is just not good enough, that's a red flag.
That would have been me 20 years ago.
That would have been me too.
So when you see something like that, because I'm sure not everyone knows immediately if they have imposter syndrome or where they are in this journey of stopping the self-sabotaging and things like that. What are some things they can ask themselves right after this episode?
I think that the easiest way to cheat and find out is to go online and pull the CIPS, the Clance Imposter Phenomenon Scale.
Okay.
It's 20 questions. They're each graded on a scale of 1 to 5, self-assessed, self-graded, and you get a score at the end. And it shows you if your score falls within mild, moderate, or severe symptoms. And when you read those questions and you ask yourself, wow, that really sounds like me, the numbers don't lie. And I think that that's a nice way to do it in a private setting. And just ask yourself what's going on, and ask yourself whether you need to get on my website and call me or any coach that specializes specifically in this, because there's a way to handle it and there's absolutely a way to make it easier on yourself. And it doesn't take that long. Once you start to recognize what's going on, that recognition is like that very first step towards booting this out of your life. And I don't know if there's ever full recovery, but you know that when we're aware of something, that goes a very, very long way. And then if you're not only aware and you know where it came from, because we talk about the roots, and you know what your triggers are, and now you've been given tools to deal with all of that, that's probably the formula for living better.
Yeah, I have to ask this question because every time there's economic downturn, a lot of people lose their job.
Mm-hmm.
Now with AI, every day you just see so much news on people getting laid off or AI is going to replace all human, things like that. Have you noticed a significant change in the people who are losing confidence in themselves and being more serious in their imposter syndrome?
I don't know if I can tie it necessarily to imposter syndrome. I think that's a study that I'm either not familiar with or hasn't been done yet. I don't know the answer to that. But I do know that if you have imposter syndrome and you're in an organization and you're high achieving and you're up there and you're doing well, but you don't feel that you're doing well and cuts are coming, it's almost a recipe for disaster psychologically because you're not clocking in the wins. You're not objectively self-assessing. So if you're not being objective, if you're the one who becomes redundant, and I hate that word,
Yeah.
if you're the one, you walk away with guilt that you didn't work hard enough, the guilt of, I did something wrong. And even worse with that than that is shame. I am something bad. I am. This is my fault. This is who I am. So it's very hard now with AI because a lot of jobs are being replaced and we're living in this experiment. We are the study.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know what the effects are. We know it's not good and we know that some of it is really helpful to us. Time will tell how we sort of balance and manage the good aspects of it with the bad aspects of it.
Yeah. And this ties into the job identity versus your own identity.
Yes.
Because just because you got laid off or made redundant, as terrible as the word sounds, it's not your fault.
It's not. But
Mm-hmm.
when you have imposter syndrome, that's hard to see. And when you're a person whose identity is completely tied in with work, you have built nothing to fall back on. So I talk a lot about work-life balance. And I think that's a hard thing to achieve. I think it's also a pretty vague term. On the surface, it means you work when you work, but you balance it out with other things so that you don't get burnt out. That's the simple definition of it. But to me, there's so much more. Is your work identity balanced with all of your other identities? What's your priority? So people do have to go to work. They need to make a living. So that has to be a priority. And I understand that. And I appreciate that. But you spend the other time in an intentional manner. Are you taking your cell phone to bed? Are you looking at your phone just in case an email comes through? If there's a huge emergency, they're going to find you.
Yes.
We're very, very connected and extremely disconnected all at the same time. So what have you balanced? Are you living in the moment? Are you present with your family? Are you present with your friends? What's really important to you?
What can someone assess if they're too tied up with their title? Like there's an imbalance. Like, how do I know that I'm taking my job title too seriously and letting that define me?
Are you constantly talking about work? Do you introduce yourself in every setting with your title? Do you, deep down inside, believe that it gives you that status? Is it how you define yourself in this world, in your social circle? Is it how you want people to see you? This is perhaps an unfair example, but it'll maybe drive the point home. Do you insist on being called Professor so-and-so or Dr. so-and-so outside of your professional setting? Because you're so tied into that without that title, you don't know who you are. When you're checking into a hotel and you have to say, I'm Dr. so-and-so, or want to say, or choose to say, I would argue that you perhaps need to stop and ask yourself, what is that giving you? What do you think it's giving you over the person who's checking you in at the desk? That it changes the conversation.
Yeah, I've read in a book called The Life Brief by Bonnie Wen. She mentioned something about resume values and our eulogy values. So you have things you put on your resume, right? And then there are things you want people to remember you by
Mhm.
at your own funeral. And I think that painted a really good picture because who cares if I was a CEO?
So, Karen, that you hit on a question that I do often ask people,
Hmm.
which is at the end of time, do you think you're going to look back and say, I had to go on this business trip and miss my kids, whatever it is? That's also really important. I understand that sometimes it's unavoidable, but when people tell me that everything is unavoidable and they have an excuse for every single thing, their identity has become too tied up in work and then balance is lost. And I really want to catch people before we get to that stage where it's too late. And the eulogy really is all about they gave everything to their job. Wow. It's not just that it's everybody misses out. It's the people around you who are missing out because they want to be with you, but they don't want to be with CEO mom or CEO dad. They want to be with you. What about your interests, your books, your hobbies, your golf game, your sense of humor, your stories gets lost.
Yeah, it's really important for everyone to pick where they draw the line because there's a really fine line between being ambitious, the level that you need to succeed in life, and being kind to yourself, like giving yourself the time, giving the people around you the time.
Shout out to amazing mentors out there.
Hmm.
And I think that everybody should have a mentor because you can't figure this out on your own. And one of my earliest mentors, when I was a young attorney at a big firm, I said to her, I was going to leave early to go to my son's holiday party in preschool. He was all of 2 or 3 years old, but I have so much due before tomorrow. And she said to me, don't you dare miss that. And she was adamant about it. And she supported that. And she said to me, if you don't go, you're going to regret that for the rest of your life. And you're also not going to remember what it was exactly that you're supposed to be working on that's so important and you can't figure it out. Don't miss out on that party.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to remember that loss. You're not going to remember what it is that you worked on.
Mm-hmm.
Start that now so that that informs the rest of your working years. And I'm grateful for that advice. I've always thought about that. So when you talked about the eulogy, that's what I thought about.
Yeah. Think of what you will remember 10 years from now, or even 5 years.
And I think that so many of us, myself included, strive to have both.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I mean when I use the term work-life balance. You can be promoted and you can be a CEO, and you can also turn off your phone on the weekend. Or if you can't, if you're a doctor and you're on call, you can't turn off your phone, but you can set it off to the side until it actually rings. Because inevitably, ESPN and texting and social media and whatever news is coming at you, that has nothing to do with work. That has nothing to do with you having dinner at the table with your family. It has nothing to do with going out on the weekend with your friends. So it's that intentionality. Some people do spend more time at work than they do at home. But the trick is when you're at home, be present.
Exactly. Even before smartphones, when we can just be pinged 24/7, there's family dinner with the TV on or off. So it's the same.
Yes, things like that. So there's nothing wrong with being ambitious and there's nothing wrong with being promoted. It's amazing. And if you become a CEO, that's a good thing as long as it's balanced with other things in your life that are important. I think it's a problem when organizations start to say, we're a family here. Well, more often than not, we're a dysfunctional family here. And the gym that's in the building is designed to keep you in the building, and the free lunch is designed to keep you at your desk. So we just need to be a little bit more mindful about what all of those things mean. I have a friend who goes outside for a half-hour walk in the middle of the day, she always does it. She goes and she clears her mind. She might listen to a podcast, or she just might walk and listen to the birds, but that's her time with herself and for herself. She's a much better person for it. And if we care, she's also a much better employee for it. She comes back with a clear mind. So balance, it's just such a loaded word, but it is so important.
Yeah, balance who you are outside and inside of work. Balance your anxiety with downtime, because anxiety is normal. Everyone gets some anxiety as long as it doesn't get out of hand.
Sure.
Same with, you can be devoted at work as
Right.
long as it doesn't get out of hand. You don't dream about it every night. You can
Right.
dream about it, but just don't dream about it every night.
But recognize the symptoms also. If you're dreaming about it every night, or if you're waking up with a proverbial stomach ache because, you have another day at the office, or if you go to sleep thinking only about work, then you haven't done enough intentional things to either change where you work, or change your relationship with that job, or change your relationship with your downtime at home in order to have better relationships with the people around you.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go out to dinner with your friends and you say, well, I went to dinner on the weekend, but you were busy with work the whole time, that's a problem.
Ultimately, we ourselves need to be the ones making that decision,
Yes.
noticing things, and making the choice to do something about it.
Yes.
So listeners, think about all the symptoms that Erris have mentioned. Think about your eulogy. See what you want people to remember you by, how you want to represent yourself, and finish this journey.
Yes. And we do a lot of that in coaching, because people will say to me, I really want to start coaching, but I don't have time. I hear that more often than coaching is expensive, I don't want to pay for it. The time, because everybody wears I'm busy as some sort of a badge of honor. The thing is, then in 1 hour of coaching every week or every other week, you get so much benefit from sitting with yourself and an accountability partner who is your coach, digging deep, evaluating your short-term goals and your long-term goals, exploring how you feel about all of these issues, and getting to speak with someone in a confidential setting. That 1 hour that you set aside is actually minuscule compared to the number of hours you spend consciously or unconsciously perseverating on all the issues that you could have worked out and had support around.
Mm-hmm.
For 6 weeks or 12 weeks, or I'm talking to you now every week for 6 weeks, I'll come back in a year, do a little tune-up. We think we don't have time, but we fail to recognize how much time we literally waste on worrying about the stuff that we could have already worked out.
Yeah.
And getting some tools to spend less time worrying, being more effective at work, and being more intentional and present at home.
Yeah. The time you spent just spinning in circles.
Spinning.
Yeah. Spinning in circles.
Yes.
That's time wasted that you probably lost track of. Okay.
Yes. Yes. Just as when you're looking at your phone and you don't realize the 20 minutes have gone by from the one quick thing you were going to look at, it's the same thing that you just said. It's just spinning.
Yeah. You see this red dot. You have to click on it. You get a notification.
Yes.
So before I lost track of time, I want to make sure we do rapid fire questions, because I have gotten some great feedback, and it's also a fun way to end our episode. All right. Number 1, complete this sentence. I am, without mentioning your work.
I am a mom and wife. Had you not even said work, I would have said mom and wife.
That's good. That shows that you have balance.
The most important things in my life.
Great. Next one. What's one title you have happily outgrown?
Lawyer.
Because you got burned out?
Because it served a purpose. It informs my practice every day. I am an analytical thinker. I think that words matter. I think the way things are presented are all important, but it just no longer serves me to be an active lawyer by day.
Okay. Next one. What's something you do that instantly reminds you who you are?
Spending time with family is number 1. And because it brings me back to who I am at my core.
And it ties back to your first answer. I am mom and wife.
Yes. I mean, to me, that's the essence of who I am and what's most important to me in this world.
Okay, next one. What's one piece of advice you wish your younger self had believed in?
That last word. I wish I believed in myself
Mm,
more. My parents used to tell me, believe in yourself. I wish that I truly internalized that and believed. My dad used to tell me no matter what happened, we would talk it through and he would say, everything is going to be okay.
mm,
And I always used to fight back on that. And now I say that to my kids too, because at the end of the day, everything is going to be okay, one way or another.
yeah.
Tragic things happen and we
Mhm,
overcome, and great things happen and we don't always acknowledge the greatness in the moment.
mhm.
So I do believe that everything is going to be okay. And I wish I believed in
Mm,
myself more 20 years ago.
yeah, I thought so too. But I'm glad I've grown to trust my gut more
Yes.
and not doubt myself so much. Because every decision I made, I regret it early in my life. And then one day I thought, well, the outcome is the same. I'm just happier, not regretting.
Yeah.
Okay, last one. What would be the qualities you want people to remember you by in your eulogy?
Most importantly, kindness. I think that it's heavily lacking in this world. I can't say that I'm kind every minute of every day, but I can say that I consciously strive towards that. I think that we could all just be kinder, be more mindful around that. And I want people to remember that that was a really important value for me, that I tried and that I'm very conscious of the responsibility of that.
That's beautiful. That's a very beautiful and kind way to finish our conversation. Thank you for spending time with me, Iris. It's very important for us, all of us, to remember who we are, to be true to ourselves. And that's a recurring theme that I see in a lot of episodes on Mind Blend. It's being true to yourself. Don't lose yourself to your job title. And if you lose that job title, get another one or take a break.
Get another one, but don't lose all the other things that you are. You're not your
Mhm.
title.
Exactly. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Karen, for having me. And thank you for having this amazing podcast and talking about such important things and helping so many people.
Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to leave your information in the show notes. So, listeners, you can connect with Iris or me, and we can keep the conversation going. Thanks for listening to this episode of Mind Blend. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to follow or share it with anyone who needs to hear it, or support me on Patreon. And let's keep the conversation going. Connect with me on social media or leave me a comment. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring, and let's continue to blend our minds and discover what's possible.